I'm not necessarily worried about telling them the truth. I do believe it would benefit them to know the truth. I'm worried what they're going to do with the truth.
Step 1, identify what your truth actually is. Step 2, proactively strategize and understand what level of truth the other person wants and is ready for.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Alan was admiring himself in the camera. We hope...
I was admiring the studio setup.
Okay, beautiful. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was a Q&A, what if my partner doesn't understand my money goals? That's always a very, very difficult topic. Today, for episode number 643, the law of attraction will not work for you unless what, Alan?
Unless you speak your truth. Like I just did with Kevin, he thought I was admiring myself, and I said, no, my truth is that we have a new backdrop, and... I was admiring that.
Our last backdrop had the spinning dial of death where it just kept loading and loading, so we airplay it now. So why did we decide to do this episode? This was something that you wanted to do. I know you talked about the truth dial. Let's just give a little reference here.
So when Emilia and I do relationship talks, a lot of times what's happening with couples is fear is taking the garden. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times there are things going unsaid between intimate partners because they're afraid to offend each other, or they're afraid to lose each other, or they're afraid to outgrow each other. Whatever the fear is, when fear is present, truth tends to go down. Because if you're afraid to be disliked or not loved or to offend someone, of course you're going to most likely filter your truth. The problem is that it's very difficult to grow together when you're not being truthful with yourself and with others. And so what this episode is going to be about is basically like the law of attraction is basically you attract who you are. And the person's places, things, and ideas that are congruent with who you are will be attracted to you. So, for example, if you're super into fitness and I post about fitness, you'll most likely be drawn to it. If you don't like fitness, you most likely won't. It's that simple. And so the idea here is basically dialing up your truth and honesty with yourself, but then also communicating that, especially with those closest to you, so that you can grow together and not apart, but more importantly, so that you can attract the right people. If you're really into personal development, but you hide it most of the time, of course you're not going to attract as many people as you would if you told everyone you loved it.
I did a post, so as of when we're recording this, that said if you want to find your people, you got to be yourself. Like if you want to find your people, you have to be yourself. And I think that many people are in between who they currently are and who people know them as and who they actually want to be. Because they're not sure that they can be truthful of, this is the person I am. Maybe it's fear of loss of love or fear of judgment or fear of failure or fear of whatever. I mean, it's fear running that decision more often than not, right? What's one step? I know our thing, it started as your thing, is kind but true.
Right.
Like I want to be truthful 100%. That jeffed us in some occasions a little bit, but it also, I think, has served us in more often than not. What is one step? Like, what is the initial step for leaning into your truth, especially with those that you love?
Yeah, the first step is identifying when you're not being fully authentic. So most people struggle with this with their family members. So, for example, you grew up with your family. Let's say it's a parent, your mom or your dad. They know you a certain way, and you've evolved so much since you were a kid, but they still kind of see you as their kid. And you most likely struggle to be fully authentic and fully truthful with them because they might get offended. And subconsciously, everybody kind of puts each other in boxes. So think about a friend who drastically changed and you didn't like the changes that they made because it wasn't as congruent, and then you lost that friendship. I'll use an example. So when I was younger and I was in college, I had a dear friend of mine who started smoking weed regularly, and I didn't. And whenever he would kind of smoke weed and hang out with that group of friends, I didn't really want to hang out with them because I was super ambitious at college and all that different stuff. And so we kind of grew apart. Weed wasn't the issue. It was the fact that he was surrounding himself with certain persons, places, things, and ideas that I didn't necessarily feel as congruent with. And I was surrounding myself with person's places, things, and ideas that he didn't. And so we kind of grew apart. And so what's the first thing? Identify how truthful you are when you're with someone. So Kevin and I are business partners. If I can't be fully truthful with him, we're going to have some serious challenges.
For sure.
Because the way in which we need to operate effectively as a team and divide and conquer and strengths and weaknesses, like, we're not going to be able to suppress our truth and succeed. It's just not going to work that way. And so this is kind of the frame. The suppression of self-expression leads to depression. And I think there's a direct correlation between fulfillment and expression of truth. And so the first thing here is truth dial. Emilia and I kind of came up with this, mostly her, honestly. Emilia came up with this. And it's like a dial, like the knob on a stove. 0 to 10. Okay, 10 is the most truth. 0 is the least truth. Where's your truth dial? With Kevin, I'm like right near 10. And even about stuff that I don't tell everybody, because it's not necessarily their business, or maybe there's no benefit to telling them. But like the skeletons in your closet, I'm not saying dial every relationship you have up to 10. What I'm saying is figure out what level you're on with that person. Figure out if you can dial that one more notch up. I was on the phone with a client last night, and I said, honestly, you're, in my opinion, from an outside perspective as a man, like, you're being kind of walked on by this guy, and nothing's going to change if you keep tolerating it. You know, he keeps doing X, Y, Z, and if you don't tell him the truth about how you really feel, he's not going to change. He probably doesn't even know how much this is affecting you because you keep suppressing your truth. So I just want you to dial that up one notch. Just one notch. That's your homework for the week. Dial it up one notch.
How do you know how much? So we did an episode, was it last week, on the amount of truth you can take is basically attached to your level of self-belief. How do you know how much truth? Because I would argue, when we started this, you came to me and said, like, I need to be more truthful. Like, I'm not pulling any punches. I need to be truthful. And we were supposed to have somebody on the podcast.
Yeah.
And then we ended up saying, honestly, it's not congruent. We're not going to do it. And we just kind of said that to this person. We said, hey, it's not congruent. We were in a bit of a pinch. We needed a guest. We thought you'd fit. After researching, we're not that interested. This person ended up leaving us a negative review, but it is what it is. And we joke about it now of, like, too truthful.
Yeah.
Too truthful. Can you be too truthful? Like, how do you walk the line?
Fire question, Kev. So you got to go to 4%, like we talk about. So in the Stephen Kotler interview, for those of you who didn't listen to it or haven't yet, he talks about how you have to, if you want to grow, you have to be 4% outside your comfort zone. So you use the analogy of, if you're in the gym and you're lifting 100 pounds, try 104, and then try 109 or whatever, and keep increasing by 4%. We all understand staying in your comfort zone isn't going to help you grow, but we all understand as well that if you challenge yourself too much, too soon, too intensely, you'll get injured. So you have to understand where the other person plays at in terms of self-belief and self-worth. If someone has tremendously low self-belief and self-worth, you're not going to be able to come at them with the whole truth all at once, especially if they tended to avoid the truth. So, for example, let's say someone's self-conscious about being overweight. It's not really going to help them to make it completely okay and to not ever challenge them, but it's definitely not going to help them to be like, hey, you're fat. Like, don't be unkind. So you got to figure out what's that strength. What's that sweet spot of the right amount of challenge, but also the right amount of support to where you're helping them and you're not just affirming their regularness or their comfort zone, rather. How do you push someone outside their comfort zone into the learning zone, but how do you make sure they don't go into the anxiety zone? And I think that is a fundamental understanding of what level they're at, and then dialing the truth dial slightly above that. So I have certain clients who play at level 5. In terms of the truth that they can handle, in terms of self-worth, self-belief. I'm going to give them level 6 truth. Yeah. And why? Because that's how they get to the next level. If you're out there listening right now, the persons, places, things, and ideas that you've attracted into your life are a byproduct of your decisions. And the decisions you make are based on how honest you are with yourself, how much ownership you take. You know, we all get that someone out there who makes excuses all the time and is like, well, I can't work out because I don't have time, or I can't work out because of my kids, or I can't work. Like, they're not going to make progress. But we also understand that someone who is, you know, only focused on being tough love, that's also going to potentially not work either. And so you have to figure out where you're going to talk to a 5-year-old different than you talk to a 10-year-old, different than you talk to a 15-year-old, different than you talk to a 30-year-old. We all kind of get that in parenting. But what we don't understand is that that's the case with everyone. You got to go to where they are and then lift them up. And the way to lift them up is through truth, but it has to be at that right level.
I think it's so interesting because I think my biggest fear when it comes to telling somebody the truth is hurting them.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that's
Same.
Because in my mind, and if you're watching or listening, maybe it's similar for you, and maybe this is the block. I'm not necessarily worried about telling them the truth. I do believe it would benefit them to know the truth. I'm worried what they're going to do with the truth.
Yeah.
More often than not. I don't know how they're going to react. I don't know if it's going to be too much. I don't know if it's going to be productive or constructive or deconstructive, right? So it's easier in coaching because that's what they're paying you for. What were you going to say?
It is way easier.
It's way easier
because that's what they're paying you for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when was a time where you had low self-worth and low self-belief and the truth was detrimental to you?
Oh, man. I can think back to my old job where it would be, I mean, I've told you this before. My boss would say something along the lines of like, you guys get paid a lot of money to do this, and there's literally a line out the door for people who want your job. Like, do better or you're gone, basically. Like, that was too much truth. It was, honestly, I think it was too much ego. Yeah. But it was too much truth of like, if I screw one thing up, I'm out of here.
Yeah, injected fear.
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much.
Was it true?
No.
No.
No, it wasn't
That's why
true.
it's ego.
I watched 3 or 4 people come and then leave. Like, there wasn't a line out the door.
Right.
No. You had to pass.
So that was an inflated truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you had to pass Corey tests and you had to do all this stuff. Like, it wasn't as easy. It's not an easy job to get.
What would have been the truth?
If we want to grow this company and make it better, we all have to do better. It's something that simple. Of like, we're a team. We have to make sure that we're operating better as a team. The leadership wasn't great,
right?
Honestly. But I do know that, honestly, for most of my life, that kind of truth would hurt me. Because I didn't believe I could do anything with it. I didn't know how to improve it. So if you're out there right now and if you're afraid, this is feedback, right? At the end of the day, we say you either get feedback along the way or you get it all at once at the end. I was afraid of feedback because I automatically attached that to my self-worth and my self-value of who I am as a person. And I didn't think I could fix it.
Which is the self-belief issue.
Yeah. I didn't think I could improve it. So when you gave me truth, it became identity almost. Of like, oh, I suck.
Right.
I suck. I suck at this. I've told this story before, too. At a party you and I are at, Summerfest, there was some girl. I was hammered. I was drunk. There was a couple girls, and I was talking to them, and one of them literally said, like, you're too short for me. Like, too much truth at once. Even if I was, like, throw me something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just throw me something else.
Yeah.
Now, I can look back on it and laugh now, but that's because I've evolved as a human being, and it's like, that's not as big of a part of it.
Did that motivate you?
No.
No. See, this is the one thing that you've tried to explain to me for years. That would have motivated me.
I know.
Because I have self-belief.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously I'm not short in this case, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Whenever I got too much truth, it actually helped me.
I don't think it does most people.
Right, because if they don't have self-belief, it's not going to help. It's just going to be more demoralizing.
Well, and if it comes from somebody in like a bad way,
right.
It's if you know the truth is meant for pain, not improvement. Like, there's a difference between constructive, I don't even want to use the word criticism, constructive feedback and deconstructive feedback.
Right.
Alan, I think you could have done a little bit better when you said this. Versus Alan, you're never going to be as good of a speaker as I am. Like, it's just two different things.
One of them would motivate me more.
I know.
but that's because of self-belief.
Yeah.
Genuinely, yeah. That's just so you know, that was a blind spot for me for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
This is something we learned before, and this is a little bit off, but it'll help you understand Alan, and maybe you're more like Alan. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest issues for our listeners that we've seen is not everybody has people in their corner trying to lift them to the next level, and even the people who are trying to help don't always know how.
That's why Kevin and I created Next Level Group Coaching. It's a 3-month program program on teams of 10 with all people committed to achieving their goals. Click the link in the show notes for more information.
And we only take 10 people at a time, so make sure you get in quick.
So in sales, there's something called the reverse negative sell. We remember we learned that.
Oh yeah.
Did you forget that? That was an important distinction in my life.
It was.
Somebody like Alan, you basically want a challenge of like, yeah, honestly, yeah, it's probably not for you. Like bodybuilding probably isn't for you. I don't think you do very well at it. Where Alan's like, well, I don't know, man. I think this is probably something I should give it. I should try this out. Yeah. You have to challenge them because in their identity, they're the type of person who does it. Where if you said that to me, it might not be the same.
Yeah, you might actually not bodybuild.
I probably wouldn't do it. So that's a little aside.
It's important for you if you're listening to understand which one of those you are.
I think most people are like me.
Yeah.
I think Alan is rare, and we're leaning into this and understanding this more, that level of self-belief that I used to think was arrogance is just that. It's self-belief. It's belief in yourself and what you're capable of. No, I don't think many people have it at the level you do. I have self-belief now more than I ever have, but it's still not in the same book, never mind on the same page.
Do you think that this is why people don't proactively seek feedback?
Yeah. I think, honestly, I mean, let's think about it. There is a certain level of communication skill that you have to give somebody a hard truth.
I know.
That I don't know that people...
There's a certain level of awareness, too.
Yeah, and it's not something that people have practiced, really. Like, how many people have practiced their truth-giving skills?
I know.
Not many.
I know. It's like, back in college or whatever, it's like if you got rejected when you asked a girl to dance and she was like, honestly, you're not attractive enough for me, that would be like so hurtful. And not necessarily constructive. But isn't that the truth sometimes?
Yeah.
It's like fascinating. Like,
yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie? What's the movie where they tell the truth about everything?
The Invention of Lying, I believe, with Ricky Gervais and Jennifer Garner.
Do you remember a scene where it was like insane how truthful everybody was, and it was like, oh my god, this would be horrible if everyone was like that? It's interesting because I think I'm a truth seeker. I think I've always been a truth seeker.
Are. Because your ultimate goal is to to pursue your potential, maximize your potential. So you have to know the truth. The less truth you know, the worse off you'll be.
Do you believe that for everyone?
I think you have very thick skin.
Yeah, but it grew over time, right?
But I think it was always thicker than most. I think that.
Okay. I remember I was playing basketball in college. We were on an intramural team, and we were losing against the football team because they were huge. They were all like way bigger and stronger than us, and they fouled a lot. So blah blah blah, victim, like, oh, they fouled, they're too big, blah blah blah. My buddy Evan, who used to play in high school and is an excellent basketball player, literally said, like, he gave me a lot of tough love. He's like, dude, you are sucking, like, you suck, like, do better, right? And I remember being so upset with him after, and later that night I talked to him. I said, that was really mean of you. And he's like, dude, tough love. We needed to win. And we did. But it's like, I respond well to that. Did he know that? Or it's like interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because would we have won had he not said that? Probably not.
I don't know. He could have got lucky.
So you basically have to know not only what your... okay, step 1, identify what your truth actually is. Step 2, proactively strategize and understand what level of truth the other person wants and is ready for. Step 3, try to be kind and communicate it effectively.
Yeah. And then I think it's be there for the rebuttal or be there for support. I think what's a good example? I mean, we've had times before where you'll give me a truth and my ego tries to protect me, and I'll come back with something and we have to rumble with it a little bit.
What's an example?
I'm trying to think of one. I've just been such a great speaker lately that there hasn't really been any negative feedback. I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe the movement family speech.
Oh, you've been better than me, so I can't give you feedback.
The movement family speech, the infamous speech where I made the kids do push-ups because I didn't know what I was saying. Yeah, I'm sure you gave me feedback on the ride home where I tried to ego up and make excuses. and then we had to rumble with
I
it.
thought that was funny. I know that
Yeah.
affected you,
It
but I
wasn't-
thought that was funny.
It wasn't super funny at the time.
Yeah.
I think another distinction, and I'll search for it, but my experience with coaching has been this. I'm telling you the truth about what you're actually capable of when everybody else in your life has actually lied to you because they have limiting beliefs. So I have people in mind whose friends, families, colleagues, work people, past partners have convinced them that they're not capable of success when it's like, no. The truth is you actually are. Like, you're actually way better than you think you are. That's such a weird place to be. It's such a how do you prove to somebody that the truth is actually better than they think it is?
You get them to see a version. They get you. First of all, you build rapport, and you have trust with them, and then you paint a vision that they maybe can't see.
And rinse and repeat.
Yeah, but I think that can jeff people because when they pass 5 and they now believe in themselves beyond their current capabilities, ego flares.
Yeah, but they get humbled.
Yeah, very quickly.
Right? I think,
very quickly, yeah.
I genuinely think this is what happens. Genuinely. Okay, you try something, it goes better or worse than you think it's going to go. If it goes worse, you either stay there and say, I'm never doing that again, or you build the belief to try it again. And every time you move closer to balance than 5.
Yeah.
It goes better than you think. You either go back to humble and say, oh, okay, that wasn't as bad, or you ego up. Then you think you're better than you actually are. Like, I think that's the human condition, is us constantly looking at our, I don't want to say our latest feedback, our latest proof, the heaviest weighted proof.
Yeah. It's almost like action is the feedback. Action will produce the most evidence.
Yeah. That's the only thing that'll produce evidence.
Because you can believe you're a great singer until you sing next to Beyonce, right? But you still might be a great singer. This is why it messes with people, because Beyonce's been singing for 40 years or 30 years or 20 years or whatever. Yeah. So, like, how does someone... On the macro, you are capable potentially of being Beyonce. If you're a decent singer right now, you could potentially make that happen. But you also aren't Beyonce yet, and you need to know that.
Yeah,
isn't it kind of messy?
Yeah.
Because on the macro, you've got to be optimistic about your own capabilities. On the macro, I'm so optimistic. On the micro, I'm optimistic too, and I think that has jeffed me in the past. I think on the micro, I should focus on humility. On the macro, I should focus on belief.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I only know what I think is the truth for somebody based on what I see and what I know is possible, what I believe is possible for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always based on your own frame of reference.
Right. When I start working with a podcaster, it's like in my mind, I'm already running, okay, this is the current listens compared to our past listens at that current time, current habits, current knowledge, current awareness, current skills, and then I try to like play that out.
Yeah.
And then that's where I give my truth based off of. If you don't want to have the best show in the world like we do, the truth that I give you is probably going to be different.
How different? Like, in what way?
Less hardcore. Because, okay, the truth that you get, the quality and importance of the truth that you get is directly correlated with the size of the goals you set.
Yeah.
So if you want to have 1,000 listens, every time you don't post on social media, it's less of a hit than it would be if you want to have our show. Yeah. The truth, if you want to have our show, is don't miss anything ever.
I know.
We do. Like, we've missed, so we haven't done a great job, right? But, like, when we say we've never missed an episode, I don't say that because it makes me special or it makes me feel good. I say it because that's what we believe it'll take. That's the truth of what I think makes us different. We're consistent. That's the truth. But if you only want to release 20 episodes and you don't care about getting to thousands, it's a different game.
I have one client who has told me she wants to be the female Tony Robbins. From the moment she told me that, I now have permission to give her way harder truths. I said, because, so Tony Robbins, how many weekends has he done seminars for the last 30, 40 years?
All of them.
All of them, right? So it's like, if you're out there listening right now, this is one of the reasons why I'm such a big advocate for bigger goals, is because you'll get more truth. And the more truth you get, the more you'll grow.
Yeah.
As long as you have self-belief, though. I don't know if...
This is a hyper-conscious episode.
It is extremely contemplative, man, because my coaches and mentors that gave me the most truth helped me the most.
I know, but they knew you were wired the way you are because they were wired the way you are.
I know. So what is your synopsis of this? What is the takeaway?
I think it's interesting because we kind of went off of what we expected to talk about, but I think it was very, very good. My synopsis, my takeaway is, in your life with your people, with the people that you have relationships with, the relationship is only going to be as authentic as you are truthful. And that's kind of it. Like, in a weird way, if you're not telling 100% of the truth, you can't be disappointed in the relationship.
Right.
Because it's not real. Like, nobody can change based on what's not true.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important distinction. When it comes to everything else that we talked about, understand that some people don't really know how to tell you the truth. They're going to try to help you by telling you the truth, but they haven't done it long enough, so it might hurt. And understand that not all the truth you get is going to be real. That's another thing.
It's going to be real.
Somebody else's truth is just a perspective.
Yeah. Two people go to the same party. One gets punched in the face in a back room,
Right.
and says that party sucks for the rest of their life. That party was terrible. And the other person had a blast, never saw the fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Didn't get punched. Truth is a perspective, and it's important to understand that. I think for everyone listening, the only thing that I would say is, and this is what I do know from coaching, dialing up your truth with yourself will help you.
Yeah. Because it's real.
Because it's real. So that's where I would start.
Unless you don't believe in yourself. And then in a weird way, it can kind of be the opposite. Of like,
but how do you believe in yourself more then? What's the prescription if you don't believe in yourself?
Find somebody who actually knows. Like, if you come to me and say, I could never do X, Y, Z because my family, friends, partners told me, it's like, how many of your family or your friends or your partners were successful at what you want to do? None of them. Then how do they know? Like, what do you mean? Yeah. What do you mean? The truth that they told you was wrong. It was plain wrong. I know you can be successful at this. I've seen you do it.
Right.
So it's almost like you have to actually understand what the real truth is. The actual truth.
Which you can't in advance, but you can find someone who you trust.
Yeah. You have to find somebody who knows the truth. Not listen to the people who don't.
And how do they know the truth?
They have the results that they want.
They have the results that they want. Okay.
But again, that's a dangerous game because social media. So it's a whole thing. This is a deeper episode than I thought.
Very deep.
We do have to go.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And that's the truth.
That's the truth. If you are looking for a group of like-minded individuals, Next Level Nation is blowing up. We're also in there every single Monday live from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you'll also see a lot of stuff in there that you don't see anywhere else. You can find accountability partners. You can get out of your comfort zone and do a Next Level Live, post all that happy jazz. You can find the link in the show notes and on our website, nextleveluniverse.com. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, we do not have fans. We have family.
Talk to you soon.